Donkey Kong Land is a video game developed by Rareware and released in 1995. It was a handheld follow-up of Donkey Kong Country. This game was also one of the few Game Boy games to feature a specially colored cartridge, which was also used for Donkey Kong Land 2 and 3. This title also featured some special Super Game Boy features, including a rendered jungle border across the television screen, which we will see when we do the playthrough for this game. I remember back when this was released, people thought it was a port of Donkey Kong Country. This technically is not true. While both games play the same, they each have their own story, levels, and some enemies. Graphics, 3 out of 10. Everything is very dark and nondescript in this game. It's easy to miss things or take unnecessary damage because it's so hard to see what's going on. Playing on the Retron 5 wasn't too terrible, but playing on an actual Game Boy without a backlit screen is quite the challenge. Sound, 8 out of 10. The music and sound effects are great in this title. The music is super catchy and the sounds are very, very satisfying. This is a definite bright spot for this game. Control, 6 out of 10. The Kongs control very well, but the one-hit deaths and brutal platforming can be quite punishing. A little difficulty is a great thing, but this game had me quite frustrated multiple times. Both characters control essentially the same. The biggest difference is that Donkey Kong does a roll to attack, and Diddy Kong does a cartwheel. Gameplay, 6 out of 10. The mechanics of this title are similar to the original Donkey Kong Country, except this is handheld. The game is a side-scrolling adventure starring Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, and the two retain their abilities from Donkey Kong Country. Both characters can be switched out when the player decides, but due to limitations of the console, only one Kong is displayed on the screen at a time. The Kongs must reach the end of each level in order to proceed to the next, traveling across an overworld map with some minor decisions to make at certain points. At the end of each world is a boss fight, most of which are quite simple. Just like in Donkey Kong Country, the Kongs are able to ride animal buddies at certain points in the game, which are really fun to utilize. You will have access to Rambi the rhinoceros and Espresso the ostrich. Rambi can break walls and Espresso can fly. They are very fun to use and one of the highlights of this title. As you progress through the game, you will encounter a small variety of power-ups. Bananas serve a similar role to coins in the Super Mario Bros. Series. 100 bananas gives you an extra life, and you will occasionally find a bunch of bananas, which nets you an easy 10 nanners. Kong tokens are an item I was rarely able to capitalize on when I played through this title on stream. They can be found normally throughout normal levels, and allow you to earn extra lives when you access the secret bonus rooms throughout the game. Extra life balloons float quickly into the sky from the bottom of the screen and serve as 1-ups. You must be very quick and try to grab one before it exits the screen. Kong letters, K-O-N-G, are the most unique and useful items in this game in my opinion. Each level has all 4 letters, K-O-N-G, and collecting each of them allows you to essentially save the game. If you complete a level without collecting them, you can proceed, but if you lose all your lives, you will have to beat that level again, unless of course you were able to collect the Kong letters in a subsequent stage without losing all of your lives. Trying to find the Kong letters in each level was very fun and was one of my main objectives going through the game. A barrel with the letters DK on it summons a lost Kong. Let me explain. Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong both die in one hit, but as long as one of them is still alive, you can continue on the level. If one of them goes down, a DK barrel can bring your lost buddy back. There are some other barrel types as well. There are wooden barrels, which are used as a basic throwing weapon that roll. TNT barrels, which are explosive barrels that can crush enemies and break open the way to hidden areas. And there are barrel cannons that can fire a Kong in one direction, and they are required for some of the platforming sections. The barrel cannons are not always the same. Some of them are static and some of them move in different directions or spin 360 degrees. There are quite a few different enemies in this game. Some return from Donkey Kong Country, but others are new. This game only has 4 worlds. World 1 has 10 levels, while Worlds 2, 3, and 4 have 8 levels each. World 1 is Gangplank Galleon Ahoy, which consists of a beach pirate ship and the foresty area surrounding it. The boss of World 1 is Wild Sting, a floating stingray that moves faster and faster as you damage it. World 2 is called Kremlantis. This world is a city that is partially submerged in water. Some of the levels here have underwater sections. The boss of World 2 is my favorite in the game, Giant Clam. You battle this boss underwater and must reflect the pearls it fires at you back at it in order to be victorious. World 3 is Monkey Mountains and Chimpanzee Clouds, a world consisting of mountains, cliffs, and platform-heavy cloud levels. The boss is Hardhat, a burrowing mole that can be frustrating to hit as you damage it and it becomes quicker. And World 4 is Big Ape City, a series of apartment complexes, offices, and a giant blimp. It's a pretty cool looking world with some fun levels, but it is pretty difficult compared to the other worlds. The boss of the game is King K. Rool, the crown-wearing crocodile guy who is Donkey Kong's main arch enemy ever since Mario went on to do his own thing. Story: NA. This is another very basic Game Boy narrative. Playing through the game doesn't really divulge much of the story, but the instruction manual and box art tell the player a little bit about what's going on. This excerpt is taken from the Donkey Kong Land wiki. The game is set as a pseudo-sequel to Donkey Kong Country. Donkey and Diddy Kong tell Cranky Kong all about their recent Donkey Kong Country adventure. Cranky admits that he underestimated the success of it, but blamed it on the advanced graphics and the fact that kids will buy anything nowadays. Cranky Kong proceeds to ramble about his older games, but Donkey and Diddy ignore him, telling him that the gameplay was also a factor. Cranky, still unsatisfied, arranges a bet for King K. Rool to again steal his grandson's banana hoard and force the Kongs to recapture it on an 8-bit handheld system, as they have never been the stars of an 8-bit title. Donkey and Diddy head out once again to get their precious hoard back and to prove Cranky wrong. Replayability: 4 out of 10. This game is portable, and trying to get 100% completion could guide a player into sinking some extra time into this title. That being said, the replayability is still pretty low. It took me a little while as a child, but I don't remember beating this game more than once or twice. Overall score: 5.4 out of 10. Now that we completed the review of this game, let's jump right into the full playthrough.